cosmology. I'm going to try to pick up where I left off last time. My phone hopefully will work. It won't cut off again. The image might start messing up at some point. And I blame YouTube. This is like YouTube Live, glitchy tech. All right, so this I think was where I left off. So I was reading from some kind of Google results, Google AI or whatever. Plutarch doesn't just give geography, he gives the theology and myth attached to it. He explains that this massive outer continent is where Cronus, Saturn, is held prisoner by Zeus, guarded by the Titan Briareus. Wait a minute, this can't be right. No, this is not right. Fuck. Okay, that means I have to try to go back through and find where I actually was. Or hey, maybe it'll let me go back. Oh. Back. Okay, now I'm very confused. Supreme macro. So yeah, I think they've just changed their things to make it so I can't make these videos anymore, but I'm still gonna make these videos. Like they made it so I can't use my photos on Facebook. They made them very difficult to scroll through. So yeah, I'm assuming this is somehow where I was. Unless, no, this is recent too. Okay, this might be where I was. Because traditional Japanese folklore casts King Enma as a strict bureaucratic magistrate, who sentences souls purely by the letter of the law, families cannot directly argue with his court. So this is explaining the different Japanese Buddhist attitudes towards King Enma of life. He supervises the soul's transition to heal their spiritual wounds before they exit the immediate state. So, hi, Galaxy Man. Thanks. So yeah, because traditional Japanese folklore casts King Enma as a strict bureaucratic magistrate who sentences souls purely by the letter of the law, families cannot directly argue with his court. Instead, they leverage Jizo Bosatsu's secret dual identity to bypass Enma's legal jurisdiction entirely. So Jizo is like a bodhisattva of compassion, but he is also King Enma, the Lord of the Afterlife. That's like his fierce aspect. So it's saying to bypass this fierce aspect, you can appeal to his Jizo side. Because esoteric Shinto Buddhism, Honji Suijaku, teaches that Enma is the terrifying outer mask of Jizo. Families perform specific underground earthly rituals to appeal directly to Jizo's compassionate core. These rituals are designed to legally commute sentences, smuggle merit into the courtroom, or completely pull a family member's soul out of a hellish indictment. So the red bib and cap strategy. The most common visual sight across Japan, dressing stone Jizo statues in bright red cloth, bibs, hats, and hoods, is actually a functional defensive legal tactic for the dead. So they're saying that's the most common visual sight across Japan. The ritual. When a child dies prematurely, they are automatically sent to Sai no Kawara, the dry riverbed of the underworld, where demons Oni destroy the stone towers they build for their parents. Mothers and fathers sew red garments and manually tie them onto local neighborhood Jizo statues. So the stacking of rocks, that's something that people do in Japan. It's also something that the Aleutian Islanders do, I think, and like Native Americans of the West Coast do. So it could relate to that. Or it could be like islands or peninsulas that look like stacked rocks. Like you could say the Aleutians themselves kind of look like a big stack of rocks. Behind Enma's back, red is traditionally the color used to ward off illness and demons in Japan. By physically wrapping Jizo in a red bib, the family is marking the deity with their specific grief. When Jizo descends into the underworld court, he uses these exact terrestrial garments to blanket and conceal the young souls, hiding them inside his large sleeves directly behind Enma's bench, so the Oni cannot process them into a lower rebirth. The incognito mantra injection, the Jizo Shingon. During the weekly 49-day trials, families sit at their home altars while the deceased is actively being cross-examined by Enma's secretaries Shiroku and Shimyo. So I think one of those is, well, they have different names in Sanskrit. I forget the Sanskrit name of the scribe. Let's see. Oh, no. The ritual of Abhidhamma. Rather than chanting general text, the family uses a prayer bead strand, juzu, to rapidly whisper the secret Sanskrit mantra of Jizo Bosatsu. O Kaka Kabi Sanmai Sowaka. Behind Enma's back. In folk esoteric practice, this specific string of syllables acts like an encrypted cosmic bypass code. Because Jizo and Enma share the same metaphysical essence, chanting Jizo's mantra directly activates the merciful core inside the furious King Enma while he is sitting on the bench. The mantra forces Enma's mirror, Johiri no Kagami, to temporarily blur or display the family's transferred merit instead of the sinner's crimes, manipulating the final judicial tally. So the mirror is like a TV screen that shows like the future. The water pouring ransom Mizubako Kuyo at specific temples such as Kyoto's Zenko 2, or what is that? Zenko Ji, or temple graveyards, families engage in a literal physical bailout ritual using stone water basins. Families write the deceased person's posthumous soul name, kaimyo, onto a thin wooden tablet called a sotoba. They place the wooden strip right at the feet of the standing stone. Jizo, uh, this right at the feet of the standing stone Jizo statue, and use a long bamboo ladle to repeatedly pour cold water directly over the statue's head and body, behind Enma's back. According to the Jizo Juokyo Sutra of Jizo and the Ten Kings, the cold water poured by the family on earth instantly manifests as a refreshing, icy rain inside the underworld. The water physically dampens and cools the roaring fires beneath Enma's boiling iron cauldrons, Kamayude, giving the tortured soul a temporary physical reprieve and washing away the spiritual soot of their negative karma so they look clean when facing the judges. The Jizo Bon Confession Shield. Celebrated heavily in late August, directly following the main Obon season, neighborhoods hold a hyper-local festival called Jizobon. The ritual. While Obon is for general ancestors, Jizobon is an intimate, children-centric block party where community statues are pulled out, meticulously washed, and fed sweet treats. Adults perform a ritual confession of the sins their households committed during the year. Behind Enma's back, because King Enma opens his great ledgers twice a year, January and July, to lock in his list of sentences. So yeah, he really is like Santa Claus in the winter, probably checking his list. To lock in his list of sentences, Jizobon is strategically timed right after the summer ledgers close. By confessing directly to Jizo during this festive, joyful celebration, Jizo agrees to use his supreme authority to retroactively erase or doctor the bad deeds recorded in Enma's cosmic files before the autumn execution orders can be processed by the underworld wardens. The execution orders being executing the sentences of torture. Hey, how's it going, Trace? Hey, how's it going, Trey? Realm of the Dead, Turtle Island. Take care over there. Let's see. And then the Underworld Wardens. While the first 7 weeks, 49 days, conclude the primary intermediate state, Chu Yin, the underworld judicial process is not automatically over. If a soul's lifetime actions remain too ambiguous, or if their transferred merit is still insufficient or secure to secure a clear path of rebirth, their case is referred to the 3 remaining courts of appeal. These 3 subsequent trials occur on the 100th day, the 1st anniversary, and the 3rd anniversary. Like the initial 7 judges, these final 3 kings are also wrathful projections, Suchaku, concealing peaceful, highly compassionate Buddhas. So it's saying wrathful, like gods are also compassionate gods. So Taizan, Byodo, in East Asian Buddhist traditions, specifically within Japanese, Chinese, and Korean beliefs, a deceased soul undergoes a series of trials before the 10 kings of hell, Juo, to determine their next realm. While the first 7 judges preside over the soul every 7 days up to the 49th day. 3 remaining judges handle subsequent appeals for souls whose karmic fates are still ambiguous, complex, or heavily tied to the mourning rituals of their living family members. The 3 remaining judges who oversee these extended trials are the 8th judge, King Byodo, 100 days after death, Sanskrit deity identity, evaluated as the manifestation of the Bodhisattva Seishi Mahastamaprapta. The trial. King Byodo's name literally translates as to the king of equality or impartial king. This trial occurs 100 days after passing. It serves as a preliminary appellate court. So this could also relate to the idea that the soul travels at a set speed throughout the cosmos after death, going like west and elsewhere, or east, I guess, from Japan. Um, or I don't know. Yeah, that they travel along the coast of Alaska and America and whatnot, and that at these intervals they encounter these judges, so that it's maybe tracking their journey as well. A significance: if a soul was unable to secure a favorable rebirth by the 49th day due to mixed or heavily conflicted karma, King Byodo steps in. He evaluates whether the family's 100-day memorial prayers, bairi, and good deeds done in the deceased name have generated enough positive merit to balance out the soul's past transgressions. The 9th judge, King Toshi, 1 year after death, Sanskrit deity identity, evaluated as the manifestation of the Bodhisattva canon, Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva compassion, the trial. So yeah, like this is the Bodhisattva of compassion appearing in the underworld. So all the gods appear in the underworld, including like Buddha, the historic Buddha too, I believe. So here's the Buddha of compassion in the Bodhisattva of compassion in the underworld. The trial. King Toshi is known as the king of the capital or this trial marks the first year anniversary of the soul's departure, Shoshoki. Significance. At this phase, the soul has wandered the intermediate paths for a full year. King Toshi's trial focuses heavily on the concepts of repentance and mercy. Because his true form is the infinitely compassionate canon, this judge actively looks for reasons to grant a lighter sentence or a higher realm of reincarnation. Memorial services held by family members on this anniversary are believed to carry immense weight during this special trial. So, like, I don't think any of this is literally true. It's all symbolism to memorize cosmology, memorize geography, astronomy, and to, pacify and distract the peasantry, the laity. The 10th judge, King Godo Tenrin, 3 years after death. Right on. Bodhisattva shining near Japan. Let's see. The 10th judge, King Godo Tenrin. So I've heard of Tenrin, I think, or no, maybe Tenjin. 3 years after death. Sanskrit deity identity, evaluated as the manifestation of the Bodhisattva Amitabha, the Buddha of infinite light. So again, this is the Buddha of infinite light in the underworld. the Buddha of the Western Pure Land, which suggests to me that the Western Pure Land is the underworld, is America. The trial. His name translates to the king who turns the wheel of rebirth in the 5 realms. So that might associate him with the North Star, which turns the stars around the North Star, like Ursa Major and Minor, turn the cosmos, turn the great wheel. This is the final absolute trial taking place on the 2nd anniversary, which marks the 3rd year of mourning. Significance: King Godo Tenrin acts as the final supreme justice. At this closing boundary, all extensions expire. He spins the wheel of karma and permanently assigns the soul to its designated path of reincarnation among the realms: hell, hungry ghosts, animals, humans, asuras, or devas. The presence of Amida Buddha signifies that even the most stubborn or suffering souls have one final opportunity to reach salvation or the Pure Land through the conclusive accumulation of family prayers. In Japanese Buddhist eschatology and the depictions of hell, Jigoku Zoshi or Kumano Kanshin Jikaizu, the Dharma wheel, Horin, is the karmic wheel, Rinbo, the Dharma wheel or the karmic wheel is frequently overlaid with celestial, planetary, and star worship iconography, because they seem to associate the karmic wheel and the Dharma wheel with an underwater landmark off the Marin County coast, which is like a round. They call it like a whirlwind, but they also refer to it as like this turning of time. So that, I think, relates to the karmic wheel and the Dharma wheel. So the karmic wheel is frequently overlaid with celestial, planetary, and star worship iconography. I think it also relates to the Big Dipper, Ursa stars. When this wheel appears as a cosmic map or a skyborne mechanism in these grim landscapes, it is pointing toward a specific celestial zone: the North Pole Star, Myoken Bodhisattva, Hokkyokusei, and the Big Dipper constellation, Hokuto Shichisei. In the Japanese medieval cosmos, this visual link manifests through several distinct layers: the Big Dipper mandala, Hokuto mandala. In Japanese esoteric Buddhism, Shingon and Tendai, the absolute center of the revolving heavens is the pole star, flanked closely by the 7 stars of the Big Dipper. The wheel iconography. In esoteric rituals like the Hokutoho Big Dipper rite, the central deity is Shaka Kinrin, the golden wheel Shakyamuni, or Dainichi Nyorai. This deity holds a massive radiating Dharma wheel, the celestial link. The outer rim and spokes of the wheel represent the 28 lunar mansions, the Chinese-Japanese celestial zodiac, and the 9 luminaries, planets, spinning around the central cosmic axis. In art, when a wheel appears over hellscapes, it mirrors this exact cosmic clockwork that tracks a soul's time and ultimate destiny. The final judge and the wheel of the 5 paths. As mentioned in the previous trial, the 10th and final judge of hell is King Godo Tenrin, whose name literally means the king who turns the wheel of the 5 paths of rebirth. So he could be represented by like Point Reyes or Point Bonita, which is near that landmark. although it's not very far north per se. The wheel as a cosmic portal. In Hell Scrolls, this final judge is often shown sitting beneath or spinning a literal celestial wheel. The constellation connection. This wheel acts as a cosmic astrolabe. The 5 or 6 spokes correspond directly to the Rokudo 6 realms of rebirth, but visually and textually it is aligned with the movements of the northern stars. In East Asian astrology, the northern dipper is considered the governor of fate and death, deciding when names are written into the ledger of the dead or transferred back into the wheel of the living. So that kind of matches with Yama and these other judges. The chariot of the sun and cosmic time. In deeper Vedic Buddhist roots inherited by Japan, the wheel is also associated with the one-wheeled solar chariot of Surya, the sun god, where the spokes represent the division of cosmic time, seasons, and years. When seen floating above a hellscape, it acts as a cruel marker of time. It reminds the damned souls of the exact astronomical years, decades, or eons, kalpas they must endure under the stars before the wheel turns their karma back toward a higher realm. Summary of the visual metaphor. When you look at a Japanese hell scroll and see a flaming multi-spoked wheel floating in the upper atmosphere or positioned behind a judge, you are looking at the hub, the pole star, the unmoving center of cosmic law, the spokes, the 7 stars of the Big Dipper combined with planetary paths. The rim, the rotation of the zodiac governing the inevitable recycling of souls across the universe. The imagery of a whirlwind behaving like an endless wheel of time within the hell of scorching heat, Shonetsu Jigoku, captures one of the most brilliant visual metaphors of 19th century Japanese Buddhist art. It directly borrows from the terrifying environmental descriptions laid out in Genshin's 985 CE text, the Ojo-yoshu, Essentials of Rebirth. The concept of a whirlwind mutating into an endless wheel of time represents a fusion of physical punishment and psychological dread. The literal mechanics, the whirlwind of iron mountains. In the Ojo-yoshu, the hell of scorching heat. So that's like the Bay Area, basically, at least in the scroll that I have, is not merely a static lake of fire. It is defined by violent kinetic torment. Genshin describes a ferocious, screaming hot wind that surges through this realm. When artistically rendered on 19th century hell scrolls, Jigokuzoshi, the metaphor, the whirlwind is painted as a massive swirling vortex of flame and black smoke that takes the physical shape of a giant spinning chariot wheel or dharma wheel. The violence, this cyclical storm forces jagged, molten adamantine iron mountains to grind against one another like giant millstones. So like whirlwinds, whirlpools, and millstones, like, are blended together in a lot of ancient cosmology and are used as kind of synonyms, often for the northern stars, but maybe for other stuff too. Like Hamlet's Mill is also sometimes Hamlet's Whirlpool. So like giant millstones, sinners caught in the vortex are swept up and pulverized into dust repeatedly, only to be instantly reconstituted by the karmic winds to suffer the shredding again. And it's like in Norse cosmology, they refer to Omlodis, that's Hamlet's mill, in the sea, being a whirlpool, grinding out rocks and sand. So that's like this. The symbolic meaning, the wheel of karma, samsara, likening this whirlwind to an endless wheel of time, toki no rimbo, elevates the physical pain to a profound spiritual lesson. In Buddhism, time in hell is not linear, it is an agonizing cycle, the wheel of suffering. The continuous rotation of the storm mirrors the mechanism of samsara, the endless cycle of birth, death, and rebirth driven by unresolved karma. Impotence against time. The whirlwind reminds the damned souls that they are completely trapped within cosmic time because the hell of scorching heat is the sixth of the 8 great hot hells. A single lifespan here lasts for trillions of years. The spinning wheel represents the agonizing slowness and inevitability of that sentence, mocking the victims with its perpetual movement. The karmic cause crushing the defenseless. According to the Ojoyoshi, souls are dropped into the whirlwind of the hell of scorching heat because of specific transgressions in life, most notably acts of cruel confinement or crushing. Genshin notes that those who trapped an animal to suffocate them or who placed living turtles between two tiles to slowly crush them to death are sent here. In perfect karmic retribution, Inga Oho, their souls are placed inside the ultimate cosmic crusher, a time wheel whirlwind of grinding iron mountains. Let's see. All right. Then yada yada. It says no. Genshin's text does not explicitly use the word for millstones. Ishi Usu to describe the landscape of the hell of scorching heat. Instead, the explicit text of the Ojoyoshu describes giant mountains of hot iron, Tete-san or Tekon-san, that slam, collide, and grind together. The direct association with millstones is an interpretive leap that happened in later art and commentary structured around two main historical factors: the scriptural basis and the visual metaphor. In the Ojoyoshi, Genshin relies heavily on older Chinese translations of Sanskrit sutras like the Saddharma Smriti Sutra to dictate the mechanics of hell. The text literally dictates that a terrifying karmic wind catches the damned souls and throws them violently between massive clashing iron peaks. However, when 19th century Japanese scroll painters and medieval painters before them had to render colliding iron mountains that grind sinners into paste into a two-dimensional canvas, they naturally painted them with the distinct grooved rotating appearance of traditional agricultural millstones. So that could have already been baked into it, or they could have figured out that it was connected to the mill myths as well. Textual confusion with the third great hell. If you are looking for explicit grinding, pounding, or mortar and pestle tools in the Ojoyoshi, they actually belong in the third great hell, the hell of crushing, Shugo Jigoku. In his chapters on Shugo Jigoku, Genshin explicitly records that hell wardens force sinners into massive flat stone slabs, sekitan, to crush them. Drops sinners into giant iron mortars, tetsubashi, to physically grind them down into liquids with heavy pestles. While the Ojoyoshi text for the hell of scorching heat focuses on karmic storms throwing victims against iron mountains, the visual conversion of those mountains into giant cyclical millstones was an artistic choice designed to make the mechanical torment instantly recognizable to everyday Japanese audiences who used grinding stones in daily life. Milnuya Woi, or if I'm butchering that, I'm probably butchering that. This is like Aboriginal Australian map. The Milky Way in 1975. If you look into the sky at night, you will see the Milky Way. It is like a river of stars. These stars are all the people, animals, birds, and fish that have died. They have been taken into the sky and changed into stars. Just below the Milky Way, so that's something Plato said, that was a kind of universal myth. Just below the Milky Way, you'll see the Southern Cross. This is Yinalpia, the friendly crocodile. Near the Southern Cross, you will see two very bright stars. These bright stars are Munuminya and Yikawana, the two coal ancestors. They are always close to their friend Yinalpia, the crocodile, and the point to Milniawoy, the river of stars, so they point to that, which probably points to the afterlife realm. Narijin Memuru. So this is showing these things, I guess. Maybe this is the Southern Cross. And then Jizo Busatsu is one of the most beloved and ubiquitous figures in Japanese Buddhism. Revered as a compassionate bodhisattva who protects the vulnerable, guards travelers, and guides souls through the afterlife. Known originally in Sanskrit as Ksitigarbha, earth store or earth womb, Jizo famously made a profound vow never to attain full Buddhahood until all the realms of hell are completely emptied of suffering souls. So this part of the earth womb probably relates to like Enma, the lord of the underworld. He's supposed to have originally, as Yama or Yima, when he first discovered or created the underworld, it was also referred to as earth womb. So that makes sense that he is the same person as Jizo, who is the earth womb. Or at least they're basically the same aspects of each other. Core roles and responsibilities. Protector of children. In Japanese folk belief, Jizo is the ultimate guardian of children, expectant mothers, and unborn babies. He is especially vital to the spirits of deceased children. According to legend, these young souls are trapped on the banks of the mythical Sai-no Kawara, the riverbed of the underworld, where they must build small stone towers to make merit. When demons arrive to destroy the towers, Jizo safely hides the children inside his long flowing robes. So that sounds cosmological. Geography and or astronomy, topography. All right, so let's see. Guardian of travelers. Because Jizo physically walks through all 6 realms of existence to save lost souls, he is the patron deity of travelers, firefighters, and pilgrims. The savior of hell. He is unique in his willingness to descend directly into the deepest underworlds to ease the torments of the damned and lead them toward enlightenment. Appearance and symbolism. Unlike most ornate crown-wearing bodhisattvas, Jizo is depicted in his humble form of a shaved-head Buddhist monk wearing simple robes, the shakuj staff. In his right hand, he holds a pilgrim's staff chopped topped with 6 metal rings. The rings clank together, warn small insects of his ability to cross through the 6 realms of cosmic existence. So he might be this, like Jizo might also be Jesus, because Jesus goes down to the underworld and, you know, and is all like compassionate and stuff. So they might be based on the same stuff, same Proto-Indo-European traditions. And Christianity is largely Buddhism transposed onto Judaism. So the Sintamani jewel in his left hand, he clutches a wish-fulfilling jewel that symbolizes the light of Buddhist wisdom illuminating the dark corners of hell. Red bibs and capes. When walking along roadsides, mountain trails, or temple grounds in Japan, you will frequently see stone Jizo statues dressed in hand-knitted red caps, bibs, and aprons. In Japanese culture, red is a powerful color believed to ward off illness and demons. These garments are lovingly left as offerings by grieving parents seeking Jizo's protection for their departed children. The legend of Sai no Kawara, which translates to riverbed of Sai, is a poignant and horror. It describes a desolate purgatory located on the banks of the Sanzu River, the Japanese equivalent of the River Styx, so it's basically the Bering Strait, where the souls of children who die prematurely are sent. The symbolic children in the traditional worldview influenced by Confucian and Buddhist ideals, dying before one's parents was considered a disruption of filial piety. Wow, that's cold. Because these infants, stillborns, and young children died before accumulating enough good karma, and because deaths caused immense grief to their families, they were burdened with the symbolic karmic debt. This just sounds like a way for the priests to gouge people more. They were stranded in limbo, unable to cross the river to the afterlife on their own. Gotta pay the priests some more. The endless task, a Sisyphean myth. To earn merit and pray for their living family members, the children are condemned to an endless task on the rocky riverbed. Building cairns, the children gather pebbles and stack them into small towers resembling Buddhist pagodas or stupas. The ritual chant, a popular folk hymn, dictates that they dedicate each stone with a prayer: 1 stone for the happiness of my father, 2nd stone for my mother, and a 3rd for my siblings. But yeah, so this is probably about the fact that the Aleutian Islands look like stacks of stones or something like that. The demons arrive every night. Terrifying underworld demons, Oni, serving under the command of the hell hag Datsueba, emerge from the dark. They mock the children, beat them with iron clubs, and cruelly kick down the stone towers. So this could refer to stone islands or peninsulas that are subsumed with water every season or something. The children are plunged into a state of despair and forced to rebuild the towers from scratch the following morning. Jizo's divine rescue. The legend reaches its climax when the compassionate Bodhisattva Jizo descends directly into this desolate purgatory. Hearing the cries of the children, Jizo confronts the demons and wraps the frightened spirits inside the long flowing sleeves of his monk's robes to hide and comfort them. He tells the young souls that from that moment on, he will act as both their father and mother in the afterlife. He then safely guides them across the Sanzu River into paradise. So it's like the land across the river is hell or paradise, just depending on whatever is the myth of the moment. But it's really both. Cultural impact and living traditions. This legend is the direct reason why piles of stones are frequently stacked around Jesus statues in Japanese temples, graveyards, and mountain passes. Visitors and grieving parents build these small towers to assist the children in accumulating merit so the demons can no longer torment them. Studio Ghibli films. Hayao Miyazaki frequently weaves Jizo into his backgrounds to signal to the audience that characters are entering a spiritual realm or are under divine protection. My Neighbor Totoro. The most famous manifestation occurs when Satsuki and Mei are caught in a sudden rainstorm. They run to a small roadside shrine housing a Jizo statue where Satsuki bows and politely prays, Mr. Jizo, please let us wait out the rain for a little while. Later in the film, when 4-year-old Mei gets lost trying to walk to the hospital, she sits down safely next to a row of 6 Jizo statues. For Japanese viewers, this imagery instantly conveys that even though Mei is lost, Jizo is actively watching over her and keeping her safe from harm. Spirited Away. While Chihiro encounters Dosojin statues, Shinto border deities at the entrance to the spirit world. The background landscapes feature numerous mossy stone structures heavily inspired by Buddhist roadside Jizo shrines, framing the physical transition from the modern world into the realm of the supernatural. Gaming and wider anime culture outside of Studio Ghibli, or Ghibli, or I don't know what that is. Jizo's association with protection, stone stacking, and traveling has made him a recurring staple across video games and anime. Super Mario franchise. In Super Mario Bros. 3 and Super Mario Odyssey, Mario can transform into statue Mario using the Tanuki suit. This iconic peaceful stone form with hands clasped together is a direct visual parody of a Jizo statue. In this form, Mario becomes completely invincible and can stomp through dangerous obstacles safely. Animal Crossing, the customizable stone lion dog and various mossy stone fixtures found in the game lean into the aesthetic of traditional Japanese roadside protectors like Jizo. Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. This video game explicitly utilizes the folklore of Jizo through an in-game item called the Bundled Jizo Statue. It is described as a small stone statue of a child wrapped in a red cloth which players use to restore their resurrection power, directly mirroring Jizo's mythical ability to save souls from death and the underworld. The Kasajizo folktale. Innumerable animes ranging from Dragon Ball to gag comedies frequently reference the classic Japanese folktale Kasajizo, the hat Jizo, where a poor old man gives his own straw hats to cold stone Jizo statues during a snowstorm, and the statues come alive at night to reward him with food and fortune. I'll try that at home. Johnny Waraja Armstrong, so it's Aboriginal Australian a lot of them have Celtic last names, like this is a Scottish last name. A lot of them have Irish last names just because the Celts were the, you know, I mean, Celts did intermingle with them in various ways, but also the Celts were sent to like police them and subdue them and conquer them, but they often end up kind of merging with them, just like with the Native Americans. Um, so Johnny Wadaracha Warkacha Armstrong is a holder of ceremony. The carving in his hands is a Gurumachi, the magpie goose, and his totem. Gurumachi is a totem bird for the Ganal Bingu. It is sung and danced in ceremony, and as the weather cools, it is hunted and eaten. The carving and the ceremony are the same knowledge held two ways. So, and I think I've seen some ceremonies where they they make their bodies kind of shaped like that. So it's probably like something on the earth, some landmark, at least one landmark, probably maybe multiple landmarks, something in the sky, an actual animal, and a ceremony that they can also encode other knowledge in, including the seasons to hunt them and how to hunt them. The lineage aligning Yama to Amitabha traditions. If you are looking at Vajrayana Tibetan scriptures, most notable texts related to the Bardo Todol, the Tibetan Book of the Dead, Yama as Buddha Yama Dharmaraja is explicitly identified as an emanation of Amitabha Buddha. So Amitabha Buddha is the Buddha worshipped by the Japanese and by the Chinese, basically. Like, they don't really worship the historic Buddha. They mostly worship the Buddha of the Western Pure Land. So, but this is saying that he is also Yama, who is the Lord of the Underworld, and who seems to have some association with Saturn, the planet, but maybe some other planets or stars as well, the northern stars. So yeah, like Amitabha is the Buddha of light, of knowledge, and so his Pure Land is probably America, the underworld, the same place where Yama is. The logic. Amitabha is the Buddha of the lotus family, which governs the transmutation of passion and the transition of consciousness at death. The scripture. In these specific Bardo mandalas, the peaceful Amitabha manifests as the wrathful judge of death to help souls cut through their post-mortem illusions and recognize the true nature of reality. From this scriptural standpoint, your statement is completely accurate. The lineage aligning Yama to Manjushri, the tantric Yamantaka cycle. In another massive body of Tibetan and Himalayan scriptures, the Vajrayana Tantras, Yama is conquered and transformed by Manjushri, the Bodhisattva of wisdom. The legend, a monk who reaches near enlightenment was accidentally beheaded by thieves alongside a water buffalo. In a blind ego-driven rage, he placed his head with the buffalo's head and became the monstrous demon Yama, slaughtering people across Tibet. The wrathful form. To stop him, Manjushri assumed an even more terrifying buffalo-headed form called Yamantaka, the conqueror of Yama, death. So this is like Jesus conquered death, in the Easter or whatever. Yamantaka defeated Yama and forced him to become a Dharmapala, a fierce protector of the Buddhist law. So Manjushri, the Bodhisattva of wisdom. But that's weird because Amitabha is basically the Bodhisattva of wisdom too, but yeah. The lineage aligning Yama to Jizo, the East Asian Japanese tradition. If you shift focus to East Asian Mahayana scriptures, specifically Chinese and Japanese traditions like Shingon and Tendai, the text, the Sutra of the Ten Kings, Juokyo, completely reframes the hierarchy. East Asian states that when a person dies, they pass through 10 courts of judgment. King Enma Yama is the fifth judge, and the text explicitly names Jizo Bodhisattva as his true peaceful inner identity. The Pure Land umbrella. Um, in later medieval Japanese folk beliefs, Pure Land practitioners did harmonize this by saying Amitabha is the ultimate boss over all of them, but formally in Japanese iconography, Enma's direct counterpart remains Jizo. To track down a precise text, we look directly to the Anuttara Yoga Tantra text and the liturgical practices of the Lotus Padma family within Vajrayana Buddhism. The primary scripture that outlines this specific metaphysical connection is the Vajrabhairava Tantra, alongside related commentaries in the Bardo Thodol cycles. In these texts, Yama Dharmaraja, the outer protector of death karma, is formally classified under the western quadrant of the mandala, governed directly by Amitabha Buddha. So here you go. It says that Yama Dharmaraja, the god of the underworld, the god of death, and Ma'o, is formally classified under the western quadrant of the mandala, governed basically the western pure land of Amitabha Buddha. So that confirms that the western pure land of Sukhavati, of eternal bliss, is hell. It's the same place, just depending how you look at it, depending which way the myth blows. The scriptural mandala alignment in the Guhyasamaja and Vajrabhairava tantric systems, every deity belongs to one of the 5 Buddha families. The Lotus family, Padma Kula, is headed by the peaceful Buddha Amitabha. When his energy manifests fiercely, to subdue the ultimate attachment, the fear of death, it transforms into the wrathful protector Yama Dharmaraj. I don't know, I think fear of death is good. Aversion to death is very good. The foundational texts dictate the structure of the mandala as follows. In the western direction, upon a red lotus, arises the lord of the Padma family, the Tathagata Amitabha, radiating red light, red like Jizo. To tame the deep-seated attachment of sentient beings and to enforce the infallible laws of karma, he manifests as the Lord of Death, Yama Dharmaraja, who holds the mirror of actions and weighs the white and black pebbles of karma. So again, it's saying that Yama Enma-O is not only the god of death, the god of the underworld, but he's also both Jizo and Amitabha, who are both bodhisattvas of compassion and knowledge. And Amitabha is the chief god of Japanese Buddhism. And Jizo is the chief bodhisattva of Japanese Buddhism. When Tibetan monks perform the daily sadhana liturgical practice for Yama Dharmaraja, they recite a structural visualization text that explicitly triggers this transformation directly out of Amitabha's primary emanation, Avalokiteshvara. who is inherently the speech heart emanation of Amitabha. So that's I think the Bodhisattva of compassion. The ritual text states, I gotta move, my limbs are losing their circulation. I have so much of this stuff, I just want to get through some of it so I don't have to keep going way, way back to continue. Okay. Not really good. Okay, the ritual states, from the heart of the Lord of the Pure Land, Amitabha, arises the great compassionate one, Avalokiteshvara. I think that's also called Medicine Buddha. Wishing to protect practitioners from the terrifying illusions of the intermediate state, Bardo, and the lower realms, he assumes the dark, wrathful, buffalo-headed form of Yama, the king of Dharma. In essence, the judge of death is none other than the sovereign of boundless light, Amitabha, performing the ultimate act of swift, terrifying mercy. So again, it's saying Amitabha Buddha, the Buddha that most East Asians worship, is also the Yama, the Lord of Death, the Lord of Samsara. Yeah, practitioners. Yeah. The Bardo Thodol, the Tibetan Book of the Dead. In the Bardo Thodol, when a deceased soul encounters the terrifying, monstrous judges of hell who try to chop them to pieces, the text explicitly instructs the soul to look past the terrifying illusion to see its true peaceful nature. The text addresses the dead person directly. O nobly born, when the Lord of Death, Yama, appears before you with his terrifying... So Yama is Enmao, same thing. Enmao is what Japanese people call Yama, or sometimes they just call him Emma. O nobly born, when the Lord of Death, Yama, appears before you with his terrifying weapons and his book of karma, do not fear him. Do not be terrified. Know that Yama has no independent inherent existence. He is the radiant, wrathful projection of your own mind, arising from the family of Amitabha Buddha, to purify your past actions. If you recognize him as the fierce aspect of the Lord of Infinite Light, you will instantly be liberated into the Western Pure Land. So there you go. The Western Pure Land is the paradise for like Buddhists, or especially for a lot of Buddhists. I don't know, for East Asian Buddhists, but I guess especially for Mahayana Buddhists. The sectarian crossover. While Jizo Ksitigarbha is the most common counterpart to Yama Emma in East Asian scriptures like the Chinese Sutra of the Ten Kings, Zhuo, the tantric esoteric scriptures you are referencing bypass Jizo entirely. They map Yama straight up the ladder to the Lotus family hierarchy. Amitabha, cosmic Buddha, Avalokiteshvara. Because a Buddha's mind is pure, empty awareness, it can shift into whatever shape a soul's specific karma requires, meaning the very same king of death who threatens to punish a soul is scripturally the outward armor of the Buddha of infinite light trying to wake them up. So yeah, it's like, the good cop is the bad cop, apparently. I mean, that's the point of good cop, bad cop. They're both working for the same department. But I don't know if that's the point here. The Western direction, the Lotus family alignment. In Japanese esoteric Buddhism, Mikyo founded in Shingon and Tendai schools and specific Pure Land Jodo scriptural commentaries. Enma is extracted from the south and firmly placed in the west. The scriptural basis in the Vajra Bhairava Tantra and the surrounding esoteric lineages transmitted to Japan via China. Enma is an emanation of the Lotus family, Padmakula, because the Lotus family is cosmically in the West, governed directly by Amitabha Buddha. Enma's celestial domain is shifted to the Western gate. Spiritual logic. The West is the direction of the setting sun, symbolizing death, transitions, and the intermediate state. Clerics taught that placing Enma in the West allows him to act as the direct, fierce gatekeeper who filters souls, purging their karmic illusions so they can successfully transition into Amitabha's Western Pure Land. The center, the courtroom mandala of the Ten Kings. During the late Heian and Kamakura periods, Japanese clerics popularized scriptures like the Sutra of the Ten Kings, Jokyo, in the accompanying visual mandalas used by priests for funerary rituals. Enma is stripped of his directional cardinal orientation altogether and placed dead in the center. And that's kind of in most mandalas. He's in the center or at the top or the whole thing. The setup. When a soul travels through the intermediate state, they must cross a vast spiritual geography. The courts of the judges are laid out like a massive bureaucratic palace. The center axis. King Enma is the fifth and most critical judge presiding over the 35th day after death. In both textual descriptions and paintings, his courtroom, Shinraden, sits at the absolute center axis of the intermediate world. The other kings surround him, but Enma is the central pillar where the mirror of past karma, Johoki, sits, reflecting everything. And like in my scrolls I've deciphered, he's depicted as Kuprianov Peninsula on the Alaskan Peninsula, which is about halfway down the peninsula. So that does put him at the center of that realm, which is kind of a no man's land realm. It's like partly considered America, but partly not, partly its own thing, and partly everything. The East as the morning star, initial ancestor. The rare and common practice, early Tendai clerics studying the foundational Vedic roots of Yama recorded an easterly direction. In the oldest Indian scriptures, the Rig Veda, Yama was not a monster beneath the earth. He was the first human to die, who traveled across the sky to map out the path to heaven. Because he followed the path of the sun, his original paradise of the dead was located in the east upper heavens, where the sun rises. So that's like Alaska. East from Eurasia. Japanese scholastic clerics documenting the historical evolution of Enma-ten kept records of this celestial eastern sky orientation before the concept was fully swallowed by the subterranean underworld framing. But something can be east and under. Every direction is under on a globe. Summary of spatial shifts. Depending on the specific scriptural lens a Japanese cleric was preaching from, Enma's location shifted dramatically. Esoteric folk Buddhism, down, underworld, or south, cardinal guardian. But that might be because he's part of America, rules America, and America itself extends further south than any other major continent. Esoteric Tantric Buddhism, West, the domain of the Lotus family and Amitabha, bureaucratic ritual Buddhism center the focal point of the 49-day judgment cycle. And some of these directions are a bit arbitrary depending where you're, orienting from. Enma translates directly to Great King Enma or Enma the Great King. It is the formal respectful title used in Japanese Buddhism and folklore for the supreme ruler and judge of the underworld. Here is the exact linguistic and cultural breakdown of the name. Enma, the transliteration. The word Enma has no native meaning in the Japanese language. It is a phonetic approximation of the ancient Sanskrit name Yama. As Buddhism traveled, but it's funny because there are a lot of words in Japanese that are Yama, like Yamaguchi, Yama, isn't there some car like a Yama? I don't know. Anyway, so it's funny to say that Japanese can't say the word Yama because a lot of their words have Yama in them. So it's more like probably maybe the Chinese mispronounced Yama and then the Japanese copied the Chinese mispronunciation. Enma, the transliteration. The word Enma has no native meaning. As Buddhism traveled from India through China and finally into Japan, the original name Yama was transliterated into Chinese characters kanji as Yanluo. The Japanese adopted these characters but pronounced them as Enma. The second character, Ma, is the same character used for demon or evil spirit as in Akuma, which emphasizes his terrifying, wrathful role as the overseer of sinners. Daio, the royal title. Dai means great or grand. O means king. Together, Daio designates a ruler of supreme authority within a specific realm, separating him from lesser kings, judges, or bureaucratic officials working beneath him in the underworld courts. Cultural meaning and impact. When a Japanese person hears the name Enma Daio, it immediately evokes the image of a terrifying judge with a bright red face, a long beard, and furious eyes, wearing the robes of a traditional Chinese magistrate. He holds a flat wooden tablet called a shaku, symbolizing his judicial authority, and uses his magic mirror to look back into a soul's past life. Culturally, his name is used in a famous Japanese parenting proverb. If you tell a lie, Enma Daio will pull your tongue out with pliers. Uso otsuku to Enma sama nibera onuki rareru. So it kind of rhymes. So yeah, don't lie or bad things. Chinese astrology and the purple star system. In traditional Chinese astrology, the Big Dipper is known as Beidou, meaning the Northern Dipper. Instead of moving through the 12 zodiac signs, it serves a completely different structural purpose. The celestial clock. Because the Big Dipper appears to revolve around the North Star over the course of a year, ancient Chinese astrologers used the direction its handle pointed to determine the seasons and the monthly transitions of the solar calendar. So a lot of people say that's what the swastika represents, is the Big Dipper in the 4 stations of the sky, the 4 seasons. The chariot of the emperor. In Taoist astrology, the Dipper is viewed as the celestial chariot of the Jade Emperor, or the Talil deity, moving through the center of the sky to govern the terrestrial world and manage human destiny. So yeah, at least for people in the north, the North Star kind of often represents like the the god of gods or whatever that turns the whole cosmos. And then for people in the southern hemisphere, they would have maybe a similar deity on the southern star. To Taoist and esoteric Buddhist astrology, the seven stars, and East Asian esoteric traditions, including Japanese Onmyodo and esoteric Buddhism, seven stars of the Big Dipper are deeply revered as individual deities called the Shichise, seven stars. While they do not belong to the 12 zodiac houses, they are mathematically mapped to a person's birth year sign, the Chinese zodiac animals. For example, a person born in the year of the rat is assigned to the first star of the Big Dipper, Tan Lang, greedy wolf, which acts as their personal destiny guardian. Hindu astrology, the Saptarishi. In Vedic astrology, the seven stars of the Big Dipper represent the Saptarishi, the seven great mythical sages of ancient India. They are viewed as cosmic anchors of spiritual knowledge who mark vast cycles of time, yugas. So they might be the same as the seven sages of Mesopotamia, like the seven, you know, the seven, well, there's like the guy, there's the fish people. Anyway, I forget the name, but they have something like that, the seven sages. And then, yeah, let's see, the Vedic tradition. They are viewed as cosmic anchors of spiritual knowledge who mark vast cycles of time, yugas, based on their alignment. Completely independent of the monthly transit of the solar zodiac houses. In Japanese esoteric astrology, Tsukuyodo, the connection between the Big Dipper, Hokuto Shichise, and Myoken Bosatsu represents one of the most powerful syncretic traditions in Japan. Myoken Bosatsu is the supreme deification of both the North Pole star Hokushin and the Big Dipper. Rather than being viewed as two separate celestial entities, the Big Dipper is understood as the active dynamic vehicle through which Myoken's cosmic will is executed across the universe. So I think there might be there's a connection between Myoken and Yama, but I could be wrong. Or maybe I already read that and forgot. The ruler and the chariot, the Taoist roots. The esoteric link traces directly back to Tang Dynasty Chinese Taoist astronomy, which merged with Indian Buddhist astrology before being imported by Japanese sects like Shingon and Tendai. The pole star Myoken represents the static axis mundi, the unchanging center point of the nighttime sky around which all other stars revolve. The Big Dipper acts as Myoken's celestial chariot because the Dipper physically circles the pole star over the course of a year. Esoteric monks viewed it as the visible hand of Myoken turning the seasons and directly dispensing human destiny. The seven stars of destiny, Zokusho. In Japanese esoteric star rituals, most notably the Zokushosai or birth star ritual, human fate is mathematically tied to the Big Dipper under Myoken's supervision. Every human being is assigned one of the seven stars of the Big Dipper as their personal birth destiny guardian star, Zukoshu, calculated purely by their Chinese zodiac birth year. So that's like your guardian angel, I guess. In esoteric mandalas used for these rites, Myokin sits at the absolute center, surrounded directly by the 7 individual star deities of the Dipper. If a person is going through a year of extreme bad luck or illness, Shingon and Tendai priests perform intense Goma fire rituals to Myoken to appease that specific star in the Big Dipper and alter the person's destiny. Iconography and symbolic guardians. The cosmic chemistry between Myoken and the Big Dipper is woven into how the deity is physically depicted in Japanese Buddhist art. The divine steed, the tortoise snake. Myoken is frequently depicted standing atop a mythical armored creature that is a blend of a tortoise and a snake. The creature is the Genbu, the Dark Warrior, which represents the northern quadrant of the cosmos, the exact physical home of the Big Dipper. The Sword of Judgment. Myoken often brandishes a raised sword over their head. Esoteric scriptural texts explicitly state that the blade of this sword represents the cutting power of the Big Dipper's light, which slashes through a practitioner's negative karma and wards off sudden death. The Sovereign Star King. Because of this total domination over the stars governing lifespan, Myoken holds the ultimate esoteric title of Sonjo-o, meaning Venerable Star King. Samurai, cults, and navigation. Because the Big Dipper acts as a permanent unerring compass in the northern sky, Myoken's connection to the constellation turned the deity into a massive focal point for specific groups in medieval Japan. Mariners and merchants worship Myoken as the protector of safe sea voyages, navigating entirely by tracing the pointer stars of the Big Dipper to the North Star. The samurai. Powerful military clans like the Chiba and Soma adopted Myoken as their primary patron. They specifically worship the 7th and final star of the Big Dipper handle, Hagunsei, the military destroyer star. Samurai armies would march in the literal direction of the handle of the Dipper, pointed in the direction the handle of the Dipper pointed at night, believing Myoken was physically leading their swords into battle. Yes, you can buy. So I'm making I made like a Obake Karuta game. It's like the card game that Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh animes are based on, and I think might be some other animes based on it too. It's like cards with different spirits on them, and then you play against each other and stuff. Yes, you can buy a traditional Obake Karuta Ghost Monster Matching Cards deck, though original Edo period antiques are rare and modern reproductions or alternative yokai sets are much easier to find. So it's from the 1800s. Specialty shops in Tokyo. So anyway, I was just trying to find places to find them. But then I decided to just make my own. So Obake Karuta, like Obake means spirits, basically gods. Traditional Obake Karuta is an action-based matching game played by 3 or more players. It is a variant of Iroha Karuta, the standard Japanese alphabet game, but uses monsters, yokai, ghosts, and mythology instead of proverbs. The game relies on quick reflexes, listening comprehension, and pattern recognition. The deck components. A standard traditional deck consists of 96 cards divided into 2 equal groups. Yomifuda reading cards. These 48 cards contain a short poem, clue, or historical description of a special monster along with a starting hiragana character. Tomifuda grab cards. These 48 cards feature a large colorful illustration of the yokai matching the reading card with its corresponding hiragana character written clearly in the corner. The reader. One player is chosen to be the designated reader. They hold the stack of Yomifuda reading cards and do not actively grab cards. The remaining players sit in a circle on the floor. Card placement. All 48 Torifuda grab cards are mixed up and spread out face up on the floor or table between the players. Step-by-step gameplay. The clue. The reader draws a Yomifuda and loudly reads the short yokai description or poem. The race. As soon as the reader starts speaking, the active players search the floor for the Torifuda that matches the description and starting character. The grab. The first player to physically slap or place their hand flat on the correct card claims it. They remove it from the floor and keep it in their personal score pile. If two players touch this card at the exact same moment, the player whose hand is lower, directly touching the card face, wins it. The reader draws the next card, and the process repeats until all cards on the floor are claimed. If a player mistakenly slaps the wrong card, it is called an otetsuki foul. Penalties vary by house rules, but traditional variations include the card penalty. The player must give one of their already won cards to the player who eventually finds the correct card. Skip a turn, the penalized player must sit out and put their hands behind their back for the duration of the very next round. Winning the game. Once the reader finishes reading the last card and the final Torifuda is claimed, players count their cards. The player with the highest number of grab cards wins the game. So I've created this, but instead of Obake Karuta, I'm doing Gobekli Karuta because that's what I have handy to use, and it's potentially older, arguably older, or at least the actual stone is older. So it's I made these cards not in the most fancy way, but I just ordered some that are more like standard cards that are from some company that come a couple weeks or so. But for now, I've made 3 decks just using these card sleeves. So just putting paper into these card sleeves. So it basically matches, the trick, instead of matching spells to avatars, it'll be matching the avatars to the actual geography. So this is a kitty, a cat in Siberia. And this is a doggy in Siberia. I think that's the closest point to America. There's Alaska, as a spider. So I think this whole Aleutian range is its web, and it might be kind of like the god of the world, weaving the webs of fate. Devon Islands in the Canadian Arctic. Well, these are upside down, but anyway, has a bunch of these things. This is Nunavut and Victoria Islands. And Hudson Bay and Baffin Islands. And Gulf of St. Lawrence and Newfoundland. basically like that. And so in each case, the gatekeeper is also part of the top of the cave. There's Miquelon Langlade. Here's the East Coast, the US. Here. Here's Cuba and Jamaica. Here's Hispaniola and Inagua. Some of them flipped retrograde like this. Gives a little more challenge. This is Puerto Rico and Virgin Islands. This is Western North America and Scorpion Reef. This is Lake Nicaragua and Cabo Santa Elena. This is Costa Rica. And that one's retrograde. This one is Panama. And this one is Colombia's Baru Peninsula. So, and yeah, it's hard to see. There's Wang there. It's like a peninsula. And there's a lot of canals there that are probably very, very ancient. Why it's called Carthage, right next to there, Cartagena. All right, so I'll just figure these out later. But so this is like I have 3 versions like this, and then I'm ordering 2 that are more profesh and that have like text on the back of all of them. And then I might make more later, order some more later that have like images on both sides, but that'll be something to figure out. So I'm gonna just try to make it go viral somehow, because like Pokemon is, they say it's the most lucrative franchise in history. So, and it's based on this thing that was real at some point. So I'm gonna try to spread it somehow or another. I'm spreading, there's the only human figure in that has like a big wang sticking out. So I'm censoring that for one version, like the version that I'm ordering now, so that I could like show it to kids and they're, it won't be like weird. But other than that, it pretty much works. So the traditional Obake Karuta decks align each letter of the historic Iroha alphabet with a specific monster. The reading cards, Yomifuda, use short rhythmic phrases or cultural riddles, while grabbing cards, Torifuda, display dynamic illustrations. The letter 3, or no, the letter whatever the heck, Rokurokubi, the long-necked woman. Riddle, Rokurokubi's neck stretches out in the night. Rokurokubi no kubi ga nobita. So it kind of rhymes. The reader recites the text and players race to grab the card, showing a woman in a kimono with a snake-like elongated neck stretching into the sky. So that's pretty easy in theory, because if there's one with like a long neck, then you just do that. I think I've seen her in some anime. The letter Mi, Mitsume Kozo, the 3-eyed boy. Riddle, look closely. It's Mitsume Kozo showing his face. Mitsume Kozo Kakao Wadasu. The letter Mi, Mitsume, The card. Players must hunt for a mischievous monk-like child spirit blinking a large third eye in the middle of his forehead. I think that reminds me of somebody in an anime. The letter Ka, Kappa, the river child. The riddle. The Kappa is tricked when the water spills. Kappa mo obareru kawa no mizu. The card features a green turtle-shelled water creature with a small indent or dish filled with water on top of its head. The letter Ni, Nupepo, the flesh blob. Riddle, that's like literally me nowadays. The riddle, Nupepo has no eyes and no nose. Nupepo ni wa me mo hana mo nai. The card players rush to find a lump of pink, wrinkly human flesh wandering around abandoned temples at midnight. I think I've seen that in an anime too. I don't know. Edo style versus Kyoto style rule variations. While the mechanical goal of snapping cards is the same, Obake Karuta was profoundly influenced by the historic geographical divide between Edo, Tokyo, and Kyoto, Kansai. This resulted in distinct cultural variation in gameplay pace and deck styles. Edo style Edome focused on speed, humor, and satire. Card phrases are snappy, mimicking fast-talking urban culture. Kyoto style Kamigata focused on wit, life lessons, and elegance. Phrases are longer and poetic. Card artwork. So basically the main Obake Karuta is basically Edo style, I think. But then there's the Kyoto style. So the Edo style, Tokyo style is bold card artwork, bold caricature, heavy woodblock lines with intense monster expressions. And then the Kyoto one is subtle, soft watercolor art that relies on folklore metaphors. Dead cards are rarely used in the Edo style. Every single reading card corresponds strictly to an active grab card on the floor. The Kyoto style, it's frequently included. Extra decoy cards are mixed into the floor layout to trap overly eager players. Foul penalty Otetsuki. Severe players, so in the Kyoto or in the Edo style, the foul penalty is severe. Players are often physically banned from grabbing for the next 1 to 2 rounds. In the Kyoto style, it's passive. The penalized player typically must give up a card from their earn pile to the winner. Alphabet order. The Edo style follows the classic Iroha sequence, starting rigidly from Iroha ni. The Kyoto style swaps a few regional vowels or ends on alternate dialect markers. Item description from the seller, endorsed by renowned author Natsuhiko Kyogoku. It is a definitive edition, perfect for enthusiasts and collectors alike. 96 beautifully illustrated Edo period yokai cards, suitable for playing or as an art collectible. So that's like $50 or yeah, I don't know, money. Costs some kind of money, but so I can't really buy that, but I'm just making my own for now. But this is what some of the original ones look like. Some of the original Pokemon gods. So mine are going to be kind of cooler in a way because they're going to be 12,000-year-old avatars. from Göbekli Tepe. And the fact that Göbekli is so phonetically is phonetically, similar to Obake's works, so that's why I'm calling it Göbekli Karuta. Yes, explicit scenes of Jigoku Buddhist hell and its denizens did appear in 19th century Karuta decks, primarily through specific cultural mechanics in the widely popular Iroha Karuta proverb cards and the supernatural Obake Karuta monster cards variants. Rather than whole landscapes, these woodblock printed pocket-sized cards adapted massive, terrifying medieval hell scrolls Jigoku Soshi into standardized punchy visual tropes meant for common household entertainment and literary practice. The canonical Jigoku card in Edo Iroha Karuta, the most explicit and ubiquitous reference to Jigoku in 19th century card games, belonged to the Edo-style Iroha Karuta deck. Every standard Edo deck featured a specific card dedicated to the concept of hell. The proverb Yomifuda Kite Goku Mite Jigoku, translating to a paradise on hearsay, a hell on sight. So Gokuraku is paradise and Jigoku is, but the fact that they're such similar phonetics might be meaningful. That's why they have the anime Hell's Paradise, which is Jigokuraku, just merging the two words. So yeah, hell is paradise, paradise is hell, depending how you spin it. The most similar to the English idiom, heard melodies are sweet, but the reality is harsh. Okay. The visual Torifuda, the matching grab card for the syllable ki, traditionally depicted a sinful soul encountering a terrifying underrealm torment, a fierce Oni warden, or King Enma's courtroom. Jigoku elements in 19th century Obake Karuta. In Obake Karuta decks, which specifically categorize monsters and spirits, standalone scenes of Jigoku were represented through the entities that lived and worked there. Jigoku no Oni, Hell Wardens. Decks regularly featured red Aoni and blue Akaoni demons wielding heavy ironed clubs, Kanabo. The artwork borrowed heavily from 19th century ukiyo-e artists like Kawanabe Kyosai, famous for his satirical masterpiece Jigoku no Kyujitsu, or Holiday in Hell. Gaki, hungry ghosts, souls bound to the Gakido, the realm of hungry ghosts, that's the Aleutian Islands, and Iceland, and some other places. Often structurally conflated with Jigoku in popular culture, were a staple visual depicted with emaciated limbs and bloated bellies. Sanzu no Kawa, the river Styx, secondary spectral entities associated with the border of the underworld, such as the clothes-snatching hag Datsueba, occasionally surfaced in regional variation decks. So I think I finally found Datsueba and her tree that she hangs people's clothes on that she steals when you die. Regional differences in visual tone. During the mid to late 19th century, the tone of these hellish depictions varied by geography. Kamigata, Kyoto, Osaka style. The older style prioritized classical, literary, or Buddhist overtones, often framing underworld themes with formal religious gravity. Edo Tokyo style. As mass woodblock printing boomed, Tokyo publishers leaned into commercial, stylized, and highly comical edginess. They transformed otherwise horrific tortures into to make them appealing to children practicing their hiragana syllables. Hiragana is like Japanese writing. Um, the syllable O, the treatment of Oni demons. The syllable O usually dictated how Oni, the brutal wardens of Jigoku, were introduced to children playing the game. Edo Tokyo proverb, Oni ni kanabo, an iron club to a demon. Meaning, giving a weapon to someone who is already immensely powerful, making the strong stronger. Visual tone. This card leaned heavily into action and intimidation. The artwork featured a massive classic red or blue Oni proudly holding its spiked iron club, Kanabo, leaning directly into a child's fear of underworld muscle. So these might especially relate to Cape Baldwin Peninsula or whatever, Baldwin Peninsula in Alaska as being the Kanabo of a demon. Let's see. Kyoto Kamigata proverb, Owa ni mo fude no ayamachi. Over time, this evolved into the highly recognizable Kobo mo fude no ayamachi. Even a Grandmaster King. Wait, does it end there? Damn it. Oh, well, maybe it ends there. I want to know what a Grandmaster King does. Let's see. Sacred Aboriginal art beyond art, Wandari Yamachi. The carved trees are traditional Aboriginal dendroglyphs, also called aborglyphs or carved trees from Kamilaroi country around Tumala, northern New South Wales. In this region, such trees were culturally significant markers, mainly of two types, being tafoglyphs and teleglyphs. And this shows Aboriginal people with one of these trees, showing a carved tree. The Silurian hypothesis is a scientific thought experiment asking whether modern science could detect evidence of an advanced pre-human industrial civilization in Earth's geological record. Proposed by Adam Frank and Gavin Schmidt in 2018, it concludes that direct artifacts would likely be erased by time, meaning researchers would have to look for indirect geochemical or climatic signals. Core concept. The origin of the name, named after the Silurians, a fictional intelligent reptilian race from the television show Doctor Who. Not a positive claim. The authors do not assert that a prior civilization actually existed. Rather, they use it to frame an epistemological question about how we recognize deep time industrial footprints. Timescales. Earth is 4.5 billion years old, and human industrial society has existed for only a tiny fraction or a blink of that deep time. Why direct evidence is missing? Erosion and tectonics. Most of Earth's exposed land surface is very young, under 2.5 million years old. Destruction of ruins, plate tectonics, and continuous weathering recycle oceanic and continental crusts over tens of millions of years. ending entirely grinding down cities, plastics, and physical monuments. Scarcity of fossilization. The odds that any specific organism or artificial object becomes a preserved fossil are remarkably low. So this is arguments why you can't rule out anything in, deep history. Like all the idiots who say like, oh, if it's not in a book, if it wasn't told to me by my professor, then it didn't happen. No, like what we know and especially what is told to us is just a drop in the ocean of what actually happened. And most of what happened, all the evidence is gone. Potential geological signatures. If a past civilization did use energy on a massive scale, it might leave subtle indirect markers behind: carbon and isotope anomalies, sudden shifts in carbon, synthetic chemicals. Alternatively, in traditional Japanese directional lore known as Onmyodo, the northeast is considered the Kimon demon gate, an auspicious direction that requires spiritual protection. However, Orthodox Jodo Shinshu explicitly rejects superstition, astrology, and directional taboos. Any direction you face inside the temple is entirely a matter of honoring the historical teachers who passed down the Dharma rather than avoiding bad luck. Let's see, this is Aboriginal Australian painting Yukugura, My Country. My painting is about the country that is my home, Ndulkana. I feel truly connected to the place I'm painting, and it's incredibly important to me. So this is a map just like all my other symbolic and traditional maps. So yeah, here's Hell's Paradise, Jigokuraku. So it's like a play on words of Gokuraku meaning paradise and Jigoku meaning hell. And it's pretty good for a gnarly enemy. Let's see. Painting. It's painting by Nathaniel Granitz. Warlakurlangu Chikurpa, Fire Country Dreaming. So this shows that fire dreamings, like fire myths of fiery land, like lands that are mythically treated as fiery, are not just in the underworld traditionally, they're also in the upper world. They're all over the place. So in this case, it's a part of Australia, Fire Country Dreaming. An old man, Luncarda, Centralian blue-tongued lizard of the Jampajimpa skin group, lived on a hill with his two Jangala sons. The old man would feign blindness and send the two boys hunting in search of meat. While they were gone, he would hunt and eat anything that he caught before they returned. One day the sons returned with a kangaroo that they had caught after much tracking. Unfortunately, the kangaroo was sacrificed to the Luncarda, unbeknownst to the boys. In his anger, the old man decided to punish his sons, and the next time they went out, he put his fire stick to the ground and sent a huge bushfire after them, which chased them for many miles, at times propelling them through the air. Although the boys beat out the flames, the Luncarda's special magic kept the fire alive, and it reappeared out of his blue-tongued lizard hole. Exhausted, the boys were finally overcome by the flames. I think I might know where the actual blue-tongued lizard is. That's like this coastal part. So yeah, this shows part of that map of that land, but it doesn't show the part where the lizard is. This is Lanita numinous thorny lizard changing its colors. And let's see. Anita, her sisters, and and two brothers are the children of Barbara Pananka Price and the late Douglas Patiare. And it was two of Douglas's sisters, the internationally renowned Aboriginal artists Gloria and Kathleen Patiare, who taught their nieces to paint the bush medicine leaf ceremony, Auntie Gloria, and thorny lizard dreaming, Auntie Kathleen. So these are all passed down very carefully and solemnly. Oh my God. It's like I have been traveling, so I have not been able to do these videos. So I'm just trying to like catch up and put all my data into some sort of videos. Jizo is a deeply loved bodhisattva in Japanese Buddhism who protects children, travelers, and souls in the afterlife. Often seen as a gentle monk, his statues stand along roads and temple paths. Who Jizo is, Earth Treasury. The name Jizo means Earth Storehouse, showing his deep connection to the earth and his vow to help all beings, a helper to all. Instead of entering paradise, Jizo stays behind to save those who suffer. Guardian of children. People believe Jizo protects babies and guides the souls of children who die young. Protector of travels, small stones, statues mark crossroads and mountain paths to keep travelers safe. Red bibs and caps. Visitors often dress Jizo in red cloth or knitted caps to show care and ward off harm. So this is just talking about him more as in his original Vedic form, Ksitigarbha. So to some extent, he becomes like the whole earth, the samsara, whole cosmos, Lord of the six ways. Here's Amitabha Buddha with this 8 bodhisattvas. Ksitigarbha is also mentioned in several ritual texts associated with Prithvi Devi, the earth goddess. So I think in a way he might be the earth god. I mean, he's kind of the earth god. In those texts, he appears only as a companion deity representing the male or awakened aspect of the earth principle. So he's like the male side of the earth. Due to his scriptural vow as a savior of hell beings due to his scriptural role as a savior of hell beings and his vow of not attaining Buddhahood until the hells are empty, Tizang is commonly invoked in Chinese Buddhist rituals involving the salvific liberations of sentient beings in samsara. Manu. Chinese Netherworld DU. So Ksitigarbha represents the east. Earth treasury. The Japanese Buddhist text on Shuyo, collection of leaves gathered in stormy valleys, explicitly links King Yama with the morning star. That's like Venus rising, Lucifer. The connection in Tendai Buddhism, compiled in the 14th century by the monk Koshu. This massive compendium of Tendai esoteric teachings features advanced hermeneutical wordplay and esoteric associations. The linguistic link. In Tendai esoteric commentaries, the morning star Venus is known as Myojo. The character Myo, bright, is broken down into its components, the sun and the moon. The esoteric identification through complex medieval Japanese Buddhist correlations, Honji Suijaku, the local astral deities of the morning star are directly identified with King Yama, the ruler of the underworld. Yama represents the ultimate judge who oversees the cosmic balance of life, death, and time. So he's also Lucifer, the morning star. Other astral and scriptural contexts. So it's like he's associated with the morning star, but sometimes also Saturn. So I'm confused, but could be more one than the other. If you're looking at Vedic astrology, Jyotisha, rather than Japanese esoteric Buddhism, the relationship between Yama and the morning star Venus is established through the Vedic nakshatra system, the Taittiriya Brahmana Atharva Veda. These texts outline the nakshatras. They place Yama as the ruling deity of Bharani nakshatra, the planetary ruler. Because Bharani nakshatra is globally ruled by the planet Venus, Shukra, the literal morning star, Vedic astrological lineage teachings constantly intertwine the fierce disciplinary energy of Yama with the aesthetic and sensual energy of Venus. And here's some Aboriginal mapping. The fact that Bozu, like Nana Bozu, is similar to the Nembutsu could be some connection. Jujutsu literally translates to the gentle art or soft art, referring to a traditional Japanese martial art. It also appears as this kanji, meaning sorcery or cursecraft in modern pop culture. Ju. So Ju means curse or spell. That's like bad juju or something. In media like Jujutsu Kaisen, it refers to magical techniques used to exorcise or manipulate curses. It's a decent anime. I finally found how to get tape that's not full of microplastics. Just gotta get the rubber-based one. Aboriginal Australian map, Mini Rock Holes by Audrey Brumbry. Chukula Chuta Mini Rock Holes. People go out to the rock holes to get kapi, water. We know the names from a long time ago for all the rock holes. When it rains, we know there is a big kapi in the rock hole and we can get fresh water. Audrey Bumby. So these maps are extremely important, life or death. In Zoroastrianism, hell, known as Duzak or the House of Lies, is a deep, dark, freezing cold, and foul smelling well where souls suffer temporary custom punishments for their sins. So that's the same as the Buddhist system. Environment and suffering, extreme crowding and isolation. Despite being a vast pit, souls feel as though they are packed so tightly together that they cannot touch, yet they experience complete terrifying isolation in pitch darkness. Packed so tightly together that they cannot touch. That good job, AI. That makes sense. Disgusting food. Inhabitants are forced to eat foul, rotting, and stinking matter such as corpses and putrid food as their only nourishment. That's kind of like the Gaki realm in Buddhism. Biting weather. The realm experiences severe atmospheric extremes featuring absolute freezing cold, biting snow, hail, and harsh burning heat. So that's like the Buddhist hot and cold hells. Monstrous creatures, giant mountain-sized demonic beasts, and harmful pests, shakstaras, torment and devour the wicked souls. Key characteristics, not eternal. So that's like the Buddhist one as well. Unlike in some other faiths, hell is a temporary purgatory, not a permanent destination. After a period of purification, all souls are eventually redeemed and reunited with God at the end of time. The Chinvat Bridge. Souls arrive here after crossing the Judgment Bridge, Chinvat, where a wicked life causes the bridge to narrow like a razor's edge, dropping the soul into the abyss. So that could be like the Bering Strait Bridge, or the Bering Land Bridge, or the Alaska Peninsula and the Aleutian Islands, or something more symbolic, or the kind of like bridge of islands on the other side from Scotland to the Faroes to Iceland to Greenland. Is Yima on the Chinvat Bridge? No, Yima is not on the Chinvat Bridge. While Yima, known as Jamshid in later Persian literature, is a foundational figure in Iranian mythology, he is not one of the judges or guardians stationed at the bridge. Instead, Orthodox Zoroastrianism places three specific divinities at the Chinvat Bridge to evaluate souls. Mitra. So Mitraism was like one of the most popular European religions when Christianity was created, and it could be that Christianity is copied after Mitraism. The deity of covenants and truth. Rashnu, the angel of justice who weighs the soul's good and bad deeds on a golden scale. Shrosha, the angel of conscience and obedience who protects the soul during its journey. Does Juzak have levels corresponding to specific sins? Yes, Juzak has structured levels, and the punishments are strictly tailored to match specific sins. So that's like the Buddhism. According to, and it's like the Greek, it's like Sisyphus and whatnot. According to ancient Pahlavi texts, and it's like Christian, like Dante's Christian thing. According to ancient Pahlavi texts like the Arda Viraz Namak, the Book of Arda Virav, which functions much like a Zoroastrian version of Dante's Inferno. The underworld is mathematically organized into tiers of increasing severity. There's three structural levels. Instead of being divided by the type of crime like theft or violence, the primary level of Juzak are categorized by the medium through which the sin was committed. Instead of being level 1, Dushmat, bad thoughts, the outermost, least severe tier of hell. And I think the upper level was maybe divided this way too, like good thoughts, good deeds, stuff like that, in various Vedic and Avestic traditions. So the outermost layer of hell is bad thoughts. Level 2, Duzukt, bad words. The middle tier housing those who sin through speech, lying, or slander. And that is like one of the levels of the Buddhist hell as well, like the Great Burning Hell, or no, maybe it's the one preceding that. The Screaming Hell is those people who use bad words, um, which is like California. People who cuss too much. We have to come here and become like the Channel Islands. Level 3, does Varsht, bad deeds, the innermost brutal level for physical acts of evil. Note, the very bottom of the pit is the abyss of darkness, this personal realm of the supreme evil spirit, Angra Mainyu, Ahriman. Specific punishments for specific sins. While the levels are generalized, the exact tortures a soul experiences are perfectly customized to reflect their earthly crimes. The text describes over 80 tailored punishments, including the greedy, miserly souls who hoarded wealth while others starved are forced to endlessly swallow molten gold or hot lead. Liars or slanderers, those who bore false witness or destroyed reputations with words, have their tongues continuously gnawed on by poisonous pests. Cruelty to animals. Because cattle and dogs are sacred helpers in Zoroastrianism, people who abused or starved animals are trampled or torn apart by demonic beasts. Corrupt leaders. Kings and judges who ruled unjustly are suspended upside down in the pitch black while being eaten alive by maggots. Polluters. Those who deliberately defiled water or sacred fire are forced to drink rivers of boiling blood and putrid bodily fluids. Is there a paradise in Zoroastrianism? If so, where? Yes, paradise exists in Zoroastrianism and is known as Garodman, the house of song, located in the highest realm of the heavens. It is the eternal radiant dwelling place of the supreme god Ahura Mazda, his holy mortals, and the souls of the righteous. Where is paradise located? Geographically and cosmically, paradise is located in the sky, far above the material world, according to Zoroastrian texts like the Bundas. Heaven is structured in escalating spheres that a righteous soul climbs after death. Level 1, yeah, see, it's the reverse. Level 1, good thoughts, Humata, good thoughts, located in the sphere of the stars. Level 2, good words, located in the sphere of the moon. And level 3, good deeds, located in the sphere of the sun. And then the zenith, the Garodman, the house of song, located beyond the sun in the realm of infinite light. This is paradise proper. What is Zoroastrian paradise like? Zoroastrian paradise is a place of absolute perfection designed to reward the senses and the intellect, eternal light and warmth. Unlike the pitch black and freezing Dusak, heaven is perpetually bright, golden, and perfectly warm. Sweet scents and music. The air is filled with the fragrance of sweet basil and incense, accompanied by beautiful, harmonious songs sung by divine beings. Joy and abundance. Souls experience total peace, never feeling hunger, thirst, or sorrow, and are fed delicious foods like cosmic ambrosia, spiritual butter, ghee, probably. The ultimate upgrade at the end of cosmic time, Freshurity, heaven expands. The physical earth is cleansed of all evil, and paradise merges with the physical world, creating a perfect immortal paradise right here on earth, where everyone lives forever in resurrected bodies. So that's like the Day of Judgment thing in Christianity, because Christianity and modern Judaism are probably largely copied off of Zoroastrianism. Often viewed as a female generative figure, the rainbow serpent has both powers of creation and destruction and is strongly associated with rain, monsoon seasons, and the colors seen in rainbows, which arc across the sky like a giant serpent. In northern Australia, the rainbow serpent is said to be active during the wet season, known as Galyad in the language of Western Central Arnhem Land, the Kuninchku language. The rainbow serpent is mostly associated with bodies of water such as billabongs, creeks, rivers, and waterfalls where she resides. Therefore, she is responsible for the production of most water plants such as water lilies, water vines, algae, and palms, which grow near water. The roar of waterfalls in the escarpment country is said to be her voice. Large holes in stony banks of rivers and cliff faces are said to be her tracks. She is held in awe because of her apparent ability to renew her life by shedding her skin and emerging anew. This powerful bark painting is by artist Seymour Wuluda. But I think she's also like some rivers. This is the North Bay. I was on like a ferry in the bay. And I think the North Bay might be the bear for the California bear flag. So it does kind of look like a sleeping bear, kind of, you know. So yeah, it would be like this is the flag, and this is the North Bay. This whole area, Marin County, Sonoma County, and Mendocino County. So yeah, it seems like it has the ears here. One ear is kind of small, but the rest of it matches pretty good. This is Göbekli Tepe, eastern U.S., Florida, New Orleans, like Louisiana, Cuba, Miquelon Langlade, Inagua, and, Hispaniola, Haiti, Dominican Republic, and Scorpion Reef. This is, some haters attacked my poster. Warning, psychobabble. Propaganda rubbish. So it's like a British bitch, Karen fucker stalking me. Because they say rubbish over there. They don't say trash like a normal person. So yeah, the Brits, they're still trying to keep us down. Fuck them. Amentet Neferet. So this seems to be an avatar of America, and with her face being Greenland. And that's why her hair is white, because it's, snowy there or whatever, icy. So yeah, I think her body is America. Western Hemisphere. Her name means the beautiful West. This is her with Osiris. So I think Osiris is Afro-Eurasia, with his hat being Siberia, his beard being Korea, and stuff like that. And then, yeah. The Egyptians were black. There's still people trying to argue and say the Egyptians were not black, that the ancient Egyptians were somehow white. But that's, that's the world we live in. This beautiful painting is by Renee Nelson. This is Australian Aboriginal art. Renee paints Chukurpa dreaming story about Minima Namu, which was passed on to her by her grandmother, as her grandmother Manichanu Lenin describes the country. Mamungari Nya is a long, long way over the other side of the sand dunes, past Tipilinga, a place where many white trees grow. This is a place where women came and were turned into the white marble gums on the sand dunes south of Wataru. Mamungari Garinya is a place of clay pans and a special women's site where lots of little gum saplings and emu bush grow. So that's a myth to memorize that land. This is the Japanese housecape that maps this underwater landmark in Marin County as a whirlwind and relates it to the Dharma wheel and the wheel of time. And this is Kupreanof Peninsula in Alaska has Yama and Ma in the same scroll. And this is the California bear. And so this is it basically with west as up. There's Sacramento. Here's the Central Valley. And so, yeah, this shows that west is up. This shows like it matches even this thing is like this peninsula here. And its mouth right there. And so, yeah, the ear, the brow, the nose, Point Bonita, then the lower jaw there, and then this thing here. So this shows even like the little nose, Point Bonita, and even the tongue is like this little peninsula headland right there. I mean, seemingly, this is a theory. Hard to prove because that land also just looks a fuck of a lot like a bear. But yeah, this may well be the origin of this. All right, I'll just go a little longer and then stop. Congratulations to Betty Chimney, shortlisted finalist. Pictures Betty Chimney with her two works, both titled My Country. My painting is about the country that is my home. In Dulcana, I feel truly connected to the place I'm painting, and it's incredibly important to me. So, knowledge of geography can also be a very so basically the one I already told, but I think painting by Nathania Granitz. Warlikurlangu Chikorpa Far Country Dreaming, an old man Lunkarda century. The old man would feign blindness and send the two boys hunting in search of meat. While they were gone, he would hunt and eat anything that he caught before they returned. One day the sons returned with the kangaroo that they had caught. Unfortunately, the kangaroo was sacred to the Lankarda, unbeknownst to the boys. In his anger, the old man decided to punish his sons, and the next time they went out, he put a fire stick to the ground and sent a huge bushfire after them, which chased them for many miles, at times propelling them through the air. So yeah, basically the same story again. So yeah, Frankfurt. This is like some of the earliest Christian things. So, but it seems to maybe confirm that Christianity is about Titus, because I think the Bible was written by Emperor Titus of Rome. Saint Titus. It opens in the name of Saint Titus, holy, 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 in the name of Jesus Christ, God's Son. Because Titus was one of the Flavians who destroyed the temple of Jerusalem. So they are basically the Messiah of Scripture. But I think they wrote the Scripture themselves to predict their own coming, which is pretty smart, I guess. So there's probably a zoomorphic landmark, like it looks like a black bear, or looks like a bear. Bear Butte has been considered a sacred site for many Northern Plains tribes for thousands of years, including the Lakota and Cheyenne. Visitors often see colorful prayer cloths tied to trees along the trail. These are sacred offerings and should be left undisturbed. Archaeological evidence shows people have visited the site for more than 10,000 years. So yeah, that looks like a bear. All right, I'll just leave it at that. It's switching up into other stuff, I guess. All right, well, if you watch this all the way through, then wow. But, I'm assuming people probably watched it in installments. But either way, thank you much, and I hope you're doing well. Take care. Peace.